That's not mine.
Oh, yeah, it does that.
You're live.
How you going? Look, here's another topic, just out of interest. Population growth in Australia. Now, I don't know what other people are aware in other countries, Australia's historical direction or historical economic movement, but it's all based on population growth. So economic growth equals, or is achieved, according to the politicians in Australia, by increasing Australia's population. And that, of course, in this modern term, or in this modern world that we live in, really is contradictory to the idea of, contradictory to global warming and climate change. Because part of the population growth doctrine is based on consumption. And Australia is, consumes, I think it's got the highest per capita, pollution rate or energy use rate in the world. So we are big contributors, even though our population is only 25 million, we are big contributors with regards to Australia, but not with regards to, say, China's influence in regards to world pollution. We are a big player. And I think what's happened in Australia is that there is no other way to do things. So both the Labor Party, the Liberal Party and the Greens all believe in population growth. Now, partly that is achieved by having an annual immigration intake, allowing refugees to enter the country. And these refugees, I must say, they're not necessarily refugees at all. They're economic migrants because they want to, take advantage of the facilities that Australia offers, the social welfare system. So we have an influx of, these sort of people, or people, coming in or forcing their way in. And then also, too, we have, 750,000 international students coming out here, all wanting to grab temporary visas after they finish their course to live here. And what that does do, and what general population growth does in Australia's situation, it allows people to come here and have dual citizenship, so they can perform in our economy. And if that goes a bit stale or flat, they can head back to their homeland and participate in that economy. Now, is there any other way to do it? Well, I think there is. And I think countries like Norway, Finland, Sweden, Ireland, who don't have these massive immigration programs like we do. I mean, America, for example, allows, through their migration program, disregarding illegal immigration, they have, it's set to just over 1 million people per year are allowed to come. In Australia's case, it's about, well, they say 250, 300, but I think it's much more than that. It's what they don't necessarily include. So it's in regards to what we allow in and what the Americans allow in, there's a big difference, because we're only 25 million and we let, 500,000 people come in here. America lets 1 million and their population is 350 million. Big freaking difference. Now, as a result of this, or this focus on population growth, this focus on the celebration of multiculturalism, and multiculturalism, by the way, was written by a Serb, which is nothing wrong with that, the idea. It's only a paragraph, and that is that all cultures can live harmoniously together. Now, Australia, of course, has huge social issues as a result of population growth. Religious issues, cultural issues, conflict resolution issues, that different cultures solve their problems in a different sort of way. Some of them use machetes to finalise an answer. Some use, a more bizarre, violent concepts. Now, I suppose I'm getting off the point here a little bit, but not necessarily, because in the end, it's to the detriment of Australia. And of course, now with this idea that white man is privileged, all these people now, or people who come in here, say for African Australians who've come here for a couple of years, all of a sudden they're given a platform. all of a sudden, their understanding of racism is brought to a head. Everyone will have to listen to this because they're promoted on television, on The Drum, for example. And so what happens is we get this twisted idea of what racism is. We get opportunists who realise, wow, what a great place this is. I come out here, say I'm black, and all of a sudden I've got a platform. I can say, well, I can just talk about how racist everything is in this country. So all of a sudden, the white person, I know this, might sound a bit difficult to deal with, but the white person really is a second-class citizen. I don't get platformed. People who question immigration in Australia are deplatformed, who are marginalised. People want them to lose their jobs, and where's it really getting us? Well, it just gets, a country like Australia into a more complicated arrangement. It becomes more difficult to move forward. It becomes more confusing, and it becomes simpler in the concepts that are presented are just really basically unfounded. I mean, someone from Africa, for example, I'm not having a go at the Africans in general, but Africa is war-torn. Africa is in constant conflict. Now, why is that? These people have been around for thousands of years. Why still can't they resolve their differences? So we have to deal with the offshoot of what the difficulties they have. And we have to, in a sense, bend over backwards to accommodate these people, because if we don't, we're racist. And this is a term tossed around very readily in this country. And, I do think, and of course, Australia loses out on jobs. There are no jobs like in Australia. Indians control the computer industry. Asian people control the medical industry because they perform better. Australia had a way of life, work, rest and play. Well, with Asian people, there's no play. There's just work, work, work. And as a result, they outperform academically Anglo-Saxons. So Anglo-Saxons will not become doctors. It's much harder for them. So what they have to do, they have to increase their working attitude. And that changes who we are. And I think it's a real shame that Australia's gone this way. I think it's a real shame that we can't talk about alternatives. We can't be clever about where we're heading. Of course, Australia doesn't manufacture anything anymore. We used to. We used to make the Sentinel tank. We made 60 of them. The first tank to be where the hull and the first time any tank had been made with a cast hull. Australia did that. We made aircraft. And, we're in a situation now where all our industries have really closed down, our major manufacturing industry. We don't manufacture a freaking thing. Then you do get examples of, some sort of light here with the Queensland Premier wanting to construct trains in Queensland to, tool up the young, to get them to, to skill them up. I think that's a great thing, but we simply don't do enough of that. And you've got places, I did mention before Norway and, like Finland, for example. I mean, Finland, small population, they make tanks. Sweden make tanks. I'm not saying you need to make tanks to do anything, but I mean, you do need an industry to construct these complicated instruments. We don't do that anymore. And we've only recently signed the China-Australia trade agreement a couple of years ago. That is a freaking disaster, because that allows the developing country that China likes to keep itself in, we've allowed them to buy agricultural land up to $35 million without a review, a final review on the activity. It allows them to buy up to $1 billion of industry without a review. I mean, this is disgraceful. So what we're really doing is we're selling Australia's infrastructure, because all the power industries and the coal industry and the gas industry, they're all controlled by multinationals. There's no Australian, or there's limited Australian participation. And we've allowed China to buy, they've bought roughly about 15% of agricultural land in Australia, and that's going to be prime agricultural land so that they can grow crops, so they can raise cattle for milk, to send back to China, owned by the Chinese, to send back for the Chinese. So the politicians in this country have done nothing for us. They are habitual liars. They cannot tell the truth. They are not interested in moving Australia and using our unique position geographically, our resources. They're not allowing us to move forward. They're not promoting the establishment of industry to try and keep Australia a viable economic performer. I mean, most of our agriculture is, most of our export earnings are, from coal and agriculture. And it's a shame to see this. And I think that really this doctrine of just constantly increasing the population is really bad. We do have a problem with Islam. They don't tolerate any question with regards to the ideology of Islam. The wearing of the burqa, the hijab, is a symbol, according to some Muslims. It's a symbol to hide women, because women are seen as a distraction from the honouring of Allah. So women, of course, become second-class citizens or second-class religious participants within the religion that they follow. If you go to the mosque, the men are at the front, the women are at the back. You might have heard of the Gina law. I'm not necessarily pronouncing that correctly, Gina, and this is to do with rape. So if a woman is raped, 4 men have to actually see sexual penetration of the woman in order to be classified as rape. Now, they do allow women a certain leeway here. There has to be 6 women and 1 man to see the same thing. So this is this ideology is promoted in Australia, it's glorified in Australia, and Islam get a huge public presentation in this country. They're on TV all the time, and their goal, of course, is they see the West as decadent and debauched, and they want to change that. In the end, they do. I know this has got nothing directly resolved. Well, it is actually connected to population, because we are bringing in a lot of Muslims into the country who are really, in the end, diametrically opposed to our way of life and to our understanding of life. And that is a threat. There's no two ways about that. It's a dangerous environment now. I mean, England, all these places, Sweden. Sweden's the rape country of Europe because of the rapes that are occurring. The Swedish government completely, either, cover that over, but that's the reality. That is a threat, and so that's just one of the repercussions. We do have African gangs going down to St Kilda Beach in summer, 30, 40, 50 of them, just taking from people what they want, and the police can't do anything about it. And the police and the media do not report this. So we have a big problem. It's not this wonderful melting pot that maybe Americans might like to see themselves. Multiculturalism is really, it's a furphy, it's a delusion. And all it's done to Australia is really contribute to a rapid change and a rapid movement away from morality and values that we used to hold dearly. Anyway, that's all I've got to say. I'm going to come back with a bit more later on. Tally ho.